An ESPN prediction just connected a former Super Bowl champion to the Eagles, my friend, and the name that has resurfaced in Philadelphia's offseason conversation belongs to an offensive lineman who knows the system, the locker room, and the physical demands of protecting Jalen Hurts extremely well. The bulk of free agency signings may already be behind us, but there are still veterans available on the market who are capable of making a real difference before training camp opens, and ESPN's analysis points directly to one of them as the perfect fit to address one of the Eagles' most pressing roster concerns heading into 2026. So if you're a true Eagles fan, hit that like button and subscribe right now, because this move could turn out to be more important than it appears at first glance. I'm going to break down who this player is, why ESPN believes a return to Philadelphia makes complete sense, what the real vulnerabilities on the Eagles' offensive line are that make this move necessary, what happened to this lineman last season, and what it would cost to bring him back. But first, hit that like and subscribe to the channel because the Eagles never stop making headlines. The Philadelphia Eagles' offensive line remains one of the most talented and experienced groups in all of the NFL. On paper, the projected starting five for the 2026 season is the kind of unit that every franchise in the league would envy. Jordan Mailata at left tackle, Landon Dickerson at left guard, Cam Jurgens at center, Tyler Steen at right guard, and future Hall of Famer Lane Johnson at right tackle. 5 starters with a track record of excellence, capable of dominating defenders in any game on the regular season calendar. But what separates good teams from championship teams is not just who starts. It is what happens when someone gets hurt. And that is exactly where a real concern has begun to surface in Philadelphia over the last several months. ESPN analyst Matt Bowen, while publishing a breakdown connecting the best available free agent fit still on the market, pointed to a familiar name as the ideal solution for the Eagles' offensive line depth problem. We are talking about Mekhi Becton, the offensive lineman who was an important piece of Philadelphia's 2024 Super Bowl run and who now finds himself without a contract after a difficult year with another NFL team. Becton is 27 years old, stands 6 feet 7 inches tall, and weighs 364 pounds. Those are numbers that impress any offensive coordinator in the league. When he is playing at his best level, he is the kind of lineman capable of dominating the line of scrimmage in the running game and creating the protection pockets that allow Jalen Hurts to operate with confidence and without pressure. His combination of size, athleticism, and ability to drive defenders out of running lanes is rare in modern professional football. In 2024, Becton started 15 games for the Eagles and was fundamental to the offensive consistency Philadelphia displayed throughout the regular season and into the playoffs. That season, he allowed just 4 sacks and recorded a run-block win rate of 71.2%. Those numbers were more than enough to justify the trust Howie Roseman placed in him within the system. But after the Super Bowl, Becton chose a new challenge. He signed a 1-year, $20 million contract with the Los Angeles Chargers, and that is where things started to fall apart. The 2025 season did not meet expectations, and the Chargers chose to release the lineman early this offseason as a salary cap casualty. The drop in performance was visible enough to make the market considerably more skeptical about his actual value going forward, but Bowen believes that context makes all the difference. In ESPN's assessment, Becton's performance in Los Angeles does not erase what he demonstrated in Philadelphia. And returning to a system he already knows, under a coaching staff that understands how to use his strengths and work around his limitations, could be exactly what the lineman needs to recover the form that made him a Super Bowl champion. And from the Eagles' perspective, the argument is equally compelling. Depth on the offensive line is one of the biggest concerns on the 2026 roster. Fred Johnson is projected as the team's primary swing tackle, an important role, but one that requires there to be no extended run of injuries among the starters. Rookie Drew Kendall was selected to provide interior depth at center and guard, but he is still a developing player who is far from being a reliable option in high-pressure situations. Markel Bell, coming out of the University of Miami, and Micah Morris out of Georgia were added in the 2026 draft as long-term developmental projects rather than immediate contributors for this season. Beyond that, there are concrete concerns surrounding Landon Dickerson's long-term durability. The left guard has dealt with physical issues in previous seasons, and there is ongoing speculation about how his body will hold up across a full 17-game schedule. Tyler Steen at right guard still has plenty to prove before the franchise can feel fully comfortable with him as a starter in high-stakes games. 2 points of vulnerability in a group that needs to be absolutely rock solid for the Eagles' offense to function the way everyone expects it to. That is the context in which Becton becomes a smart and financially accessible option. Spotrac currently projects his market value at around $13.5 million per season. But considering the inconsistent performance of the last 12 months and the absence of strong market demand, the most likely outcome is that his next contract will be a short-term prove-it deal, with the player trying to re-establish his value to secure a larger contract down the road. For the Eagles, that is exactly the kind of negotiating environment Howie Roseman loves to exploit. The advantage of a reunion goes beyond the financial aspect. Becton already knows what the Jefferson Health Training Complex demands. He knows the offensive language, the line calls, the protection responsibilities that Jalen Hurts expects from every lineman before every snap. There would be no extended adjustment period. There would be no learning curve of the kind that rookies and new signings typically navigate during training camp and the early weeks of the season. Becton would arrive ready to contribute, and new offensive line coach Chris Cooper, who took over the role following the departure of the legendary Jeff Stoutland, would already have in his hands a veteran with proven experience inside the system. There is also the question of the Eagles' offensive identity. Philadelphia is a team built to play physical football. The running game with Saquon Barkley as the primary ball carrier remains a central element of what Nick Sirianni wants to execute in 2026. For that ground attack to function the way it did in recent seasons, the line needs to be capable of creating space consistently against first-rate defensive fronts. Becton, at his best, is exactly the kind of lineman who physically dominates defensive tackles and ends in the running game, opening the corridors that turned Philadelphia into one of the hardest offenses to stop in the entire NFL. The question that remains open is whether the Eagles will actually move toward this reunion or whether they will trust their current depth and internal options to solve the problem. Howie Roseman has a track record of adding experienced veterans before training camp when he identifies a genuine gap on the roster. And if the internal evaluation confirms that offensive line depth is not at the level required for a championship run, Becton becomes a logical, cost-effective, and familiar solution. The cost will be the deciding factor. If Becton and his agent understand that the market calls for a low-cost prove-it contract, Philadelphia has the salary cap space to accommodate that move without compromising other roster priorities. If the player's expectations are higher than what the market justifies given what happened in Los Angeles, the deal may not come together. But ESPN believes the fit is perfect. And in Philadelphia, when ESPN connects a player to the Eagles with that level of specificity, the market pays attention. With the Eagles' offensive line still carrying real depth questions before training camp opens, Becton available on the market at an accessible price, and the Philadelphia system being exactly the environment where he produced at his highest level, do you think Howie Roseman is going to make this move? Does a Super Bowl reunion make sense for the 2026 roster, or will the Eagles go in a different direction? Leave your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back later with the latest Eagles news.